Anyway, I think we're going to get right into it. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Talk Nerdy with me, the nerdy show about all things video games. I'm your host, Nicholas Merrington, and this week I'm joined by James Creel. How you doing, James?
I think you could have added an again, considering it's the second time in a row. I'm doing pretty good. I literally just got the achievement for finally reaching the Ghost rank in Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, wow.
So I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
Jeez, I'm close. I'm not Ghost rank yet. I just ranked up again, though.
What are you? Do you know what you were?
No.
Actually, to be fair, I can't remember what any of the other ranks were.
I remember it's not like it's nothing to do with like a samurai. It's something to do with like a to do with being a ghost or something.
Yeah, like they get to be more brutal kind of like descriptors, kind of just like a I will do anything to win kind of vibe.
Yeah, but
kind of thing.
That's awesome. And how's your public holiday?
Oh, it was great. Finally, I had time to just relax, even more so than I normally do.
Nice. Well, that's awesome.
I wish I had more holidays.
Well, we all wish we had more holidays so we could play video games, because that's
Pretty
what
much.
this podcast is about. If you didn't know, this is the Talk Nerdy with Me podcast, the podcast that revolves around all things video games. If you want to join us, you want to chat with us, you want to discuss with us, you can reach us at the email talknerdywithme21@gmail.com. If you want to write in with a question or an answer to any of the questions we talk about on the show, or if you want to add a topic for the weeks to come. But welcome to this episode where we're going to be covering 3 main topics. First of all, we're going to be diving into some of our opinions on the Spider-Man exclusivity deal with Sony for Marvel's Avengers. We're going to be talking a little bit about what we've been playing. And finally, we got a little game James and I are going to be playing, which is basically who are your 5 favorite developers in a sense, but with a twist as well. And we'll explain that more later when we get there. But for now, we're going to start off with another icebreaker. And this week we just had another Cyberpunk stream from CD Projekt Red. What do they call it? Night City Wire?
Night City Wire, yeah. Night City Wire episode 2.
Yeah, and they dropped
That's the wrong email.
They dropped a trailer for the different life path options. They were basically saying there's like 3 options that you get in the beginning of the game of like where your version of V starts out. So there's the Nomad, which is like you start outside the city in the Badlands. You something happens and you leave your home to go into Night City. The second option is a corpo, where you work in the corporate world, with like a white collar kind of job, and some
basically white collar crime, and then eventually you go to like straight up murder because who knows.
and then a street kid.
When tax evasion becomes boring.
You literally live on the streets, and you know the streets very well, apparently. So the icebreaker question is just, James, in Cyberpunk 2077, based on what you've seen so far, which of these 3 backgrounds are you going to choose? The Nomad, the Street Kid, or the Corpo?
Part of me is very interested to try the Corpo, because the Corpo feels like the one that's going to be very much ingrained in what could only be a cyberpunk type of future. Because cyberpunk is often defined by like corporations running everything. Like, there's no more governments. Everything's just dystopianly run by the wealthy. Which, I mean, is more or less kind of what's happening now, but not to the extent of a cyberpunk world. So, I mean, being like someone that came from that seems like kind of interesting, because then you get all the perspective of someone who lived in that, instead of living, a lot of stories are set someone who was from the slums or oppressed by that. I don't know, it just seems like a very interesting and very like the one that isn't fully existent in our world as a kind of lifestyle that exists now.
Yeah.
So I feel like it'll be interesting. But I mean, I could change my mind when the game comes out. I'll see how they describe them in the selection menu.
I'm actually different. I'm really keen on the Nomad. I like the idea of like coming from outside the city in, and I think for how I want to play the game, it'll make sense, because you come into Night City and you don't actually know it yet because it's a new game. I feel like a Nomad will make most sense with that story-wise, but like if you were a street kid, for instance, I would expect that your character should know the streets, and me jumping into the game, especially it being an RPG, me jumping into the shoes of a supposed street kid that knows the streets, and I don't know the streets. I think for me that doesn't fit so well. A corper, I guess you can make the excuse that they're so used to like their home and the buildings, they don't actually know the city. But I like the idea of the nomad. I think it sounds so cool as well. With just kind of having a place in the Badlands rather than.
Well, I mean, I think you kind of lose your place though. That's why you leave.
I imagine so.
So I mean, you kind of like even if you go back, I feel like you're still going to get attacked.
No.
By the fact, I don't think you're going to be like friendly with people in the Badlands.
Yeah, but I feel like you'll have more of a reason to go back.
Possibly, yeah.
Other ones. But
I think there's going to be missions they'll send you there regardless.
Yeah, 100%.
Like for me, the one thing on that though is I look at it like it's the same as say when you started GTA 5. Technically speaking, Franklin, Trevor, and Michael all should have known Los Santos like the back of their hand, but we had to use the GPS all the time.
Yeah.
Like for me, despite like I agree with what you say, like the Nomad feels thematically like it suits where the player's head is at and with their knowledge versus
at least in the beginning of the game.
Yeah. But I think like it's just a gameplay thing that's kind of normal. Like if you look at every other game.
I think that if it was a game you were going to have, well, obviously it is a game a lot of people are going to play multiple times. I'm not necessarily someone who plays it multiple times, but so far I would assume the way that kind of makes the most sense to play it, just from that point of view of knowing the map, would be play Nomad on your first run, second run probably a Street Kid because now you know the map better. Corpo maybe second or third, but I mean that is me thinking of very hard of like to do it knowing the map and stuff. But other than that, it still really interests me, the idea of the Nomad. I think I'm not really fazed by the Corpo one that much. But yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to quickly check something. Someone told me that there was a possible rumor of Cyberpunk having some stuff where the devs aren't happy with the melee combat gameplay right now.
Didn't they take something out? What did they take out recently? Was it wall running or was it some melee combat?
No, they took out wall running.
Okay.
They said it just didn't mesh, I think, with the systems they had. Like, it just kind of broke some systems, and they just decided rather it was better to take it out. But yeah, there's a thing here that Cyberpunk 27 developers are not 100% happy with melee combat. So they're spending a lot of time right now trying to perfect it. And, like, I mean, to be fair, melee combat in a first-person game is normally difficult.
Yeah. Well, can you
like
what first-person games have a focus on melee combat, would you say?
Kingdom Come Deliverance, the Dead Island games, Dying Light, but that kind of isn't fair because Dead Island and Dying Light are both by Techland.
Yeah.
I guess you could posit GTA has some because of the first-person mode.
Yeah.
But yeah, there aren't many games that do it, but that's because it never really works out that well. Just think about any first-person shooter. If you do anything melee, it's like a very static, just one-note slash or punch move. It's not a very dynamic system.
This being an RPG, though, I feel like it's not going to be like Kingdom Come that I've heard of, which is similar to Ghost, that it doesn't work on it gets easier. It's that you actually learn how to play the systems they've created.
Yeah.
So like Kingdom Come, correct me if I'm wrong, you start off, you in the beginning of the game is the exactly the same as you late game, but you just learn how to fight or how to handle certain enemies.
You learn as a player, but also Henry gets better. Okay. So you train to the point that, like, for instance, a thing might be such as you don't wobble as much holding a sword because you're more confident in it.
Yeah.
And you know what to look for. So maybe you know what to look for, so the timing becomes a little bit more generous because you now can see that. And by that point, you also have much better gear, which also helps you because now you have a shield and a big sword instead of just a big sword because now you've made money and you're not a poor peasant anymore. Yeah. There's lots of systems in Kingdom Come that feed into how combat works, and that game was, I don't think even CD Projekt Red is going to go for something that realistic.
Exactly. I think it being an RPG, they want it to just be a combat system within the story they're telling. I think the focus is more on the story and building your character than it being a first-person game about using swords specifically. Yeah,
but importantly, biggest game with first-person and the game with horrid melee combat is Skyrim. That melee combat is horrible.
And Fallout.
That's the thing. First person, but Fallout doesn't focus on melee combat that much. You don't really often find people purposefully playing builds of melee combat. while Skyrim, a good portion of their weapons are one-handed or two-handed weapons and shields and stuff. So it kind of is built with that in mind.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, but it's just not a very easy thing to get right, because it always ends up being flailing and hoping your hitboxes line up.
I'd be very interested to see what happens with the Avowed then. Like where Obsidian kind of goes with the melee combat. Like, do they go for like a Kingdom Come kind of vibe, where it's more about being good at the system, or is it more of the Skyrim or Outer Worlds direction of just simple attacks?
Mainly because it's Avowed is looking like it's going to be kind of Skyrim-y, but I think they're going to put a bit more effort into making it less floaty, I hope, because like they've got the thing where you see it's one hand had magic and one hand had a sword.
Yeah.
So whatever you're doing, you're going to be able to dual wield or vary by hand what type of attack you're doing with different things. So I don't know I can't say at all how in-depth that combat system is going to be. So it'll be interesting to see, but I don't even know what the systems of that world is, because I've never played the Pillars of Eternity stuff, so I don't know how that world's magic system works.
Mm-hmm. So you're telling me your answer is, from all that, your answer is Corpo, pretty much.
Yes, but this was a tangent about Cyberpunk possibly having problems.
Yeah.
And the worry I feel at another possible delay, but I'm pretty much certain that it won't be delayed.
Did you see the Halo delay? Halo Infinite delay?
Yes. I'm not surprised by it.
I just wonder what Xbox's flagship title is going to be then,
I don't think
what game are you buying the console for?
Well, it's like everyone's kept saying, they're selling the subscription service. The console is kind of a secondary thing.
Yeah.
Like,
but do you think
people have said for years that game manufacturers don't make their money on the consoles. They often make a loss on the consoles, and they make their money on software.
Yeah, but
so it's the install base and the subscription services that matter.
I mean, I assume Game Pass will have like everything available on Xbox One will be available on Xbox Series X. I just wonder how many of those games at launch will have the smart delivery ready. How many of them will actually play better to make you want to get an Xbox Series X on day one.
Yeah, I think most games that actually take advantage of Xbox Series X and PS5 that aren't Sony exclusives are going to mainly be in terms of better frame rates, more stable 4K, and shorter loading times. Only maybe PS5 games, simply because of Sony limiting them to PS5, are probably going to fully take advantage of it in the first few years of this. So, I mean, only like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War 2, and Spider-Man Miles Morales, at the very least, we'll see do fully just next-gen only stuff.
It's funny you mentioned Spider-Man, because he happens to be our next topic.
Wow, what a segue.
As revealed earlier this week, or you guys will get this a few weeks later, but basically they've announced that Spider-Man will be an exclusive character on the PlayStation 4 version of Marvel's Avengers, or just the PlayStation version. I'm sure you'll probably come up when the PS5 is out. But anyway, I just want to ask a few questions. And first of all, James, what do you think of Spider-Man coming to Marvel's Avengers, as well as that being an exclusive deal to PlayStation?
I mean, I think everyone kind of looked at it like he was probably one of the no-brainer characters that would eventually show up when they announced that they'd be releasing free heroes down the line. Because, I mean, I think we also already know about Ant-Man and Hawkeye now. So I think Spider-Man was an obvious choice to definitely be there, because everyone knows him. He's the most... Yeah, even despite the MCU, he's probably still the most brand recognizable superhero.
Yeah,
aside from maybe
between
Batman.
Spider-Man and Batman.
He's just instantly recognizable to everyone. So I think it was just, it was kind of obvious he would come. As far as the exclusivity deal, it's really difficult to say. Part of it is that we know that Sony most likely went to Marvel with this deal and asked them, hey, what would it take for us to get the exclusive rights to him in this game as well? Because I've seen lots of people discuss it on other podcasts and other news and stuff, and there seems to be a bit of a debate about it, but I don't believe Sony owns the gaming rights to Spider-Man.
Only the film rights, I think.
They own the film rights, and lots of people I've seen actually go and claim that they do own the gaming rights, but considering Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, Lego Marvel's superheroes, none of those make sense if Sony owns the rights.
Yeah.
Considering Ultimate Alliance was 6 months, maybe a year before Insomniac's Spider-Man came out, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3 came out, and that was exclusive to Switch.
Yeah.
With Spider-Man in it. So they definitely don't own the rights. This is some deal between Sony and Marvel and Square Enix by extension. I
can't remember the exact story behind it, but I remember I watched an interview with Ted Price, I think the founder of Insomniac Games, and he said, I'm trying to remember if it was Sony basically approached him saying, look, Marvel's contacted us and they've said that we free to use any of their heroes basically. And he said to him, like, what hero do you want? And he went back to his studio and he basically put the question out, like, what hero do you guys want to do? We can pick any. So looking at that, like, I would assume, Sony don't own the video game rights to Spider-Man. They obviously made a deal with Marvel to get the rights to any superhero they wanted. I mean, they could have possibly chosen the Avengers if they wanted.
I don't think they would have gotten a whole team. I feel like that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, especially if Crystal Dynamics were already working on.
This game was announced from, like, what was it, 2012 or 2014? That first teaser trailer was years. Yeah.
That was long ago. I can't remember what year that was.
I'll have a look at it quickly because I'm sure you've got some thoughts still to carry on with.
Yeah, so I disagree a bit with you. Like, I was actually surprised to hear Spider-Man come in. I mean, I agree that, if any hero would have come or should have come, it was going to be Spider-Man because he's the most popular hero. But I just thought that with Spider-Man being on PS4, the Sony exclusive, I didn't think there was a chance of them putting him in this game because it would kind of confuse fans. And I
believe it was about 2017 or 2016, it says.
Okay.
For the first reveal of that. So not as long as I thought, but still quite a while ago. And definitely before Spider-Man PS4.
Yeah. So I was thinking that if you look at the normal video game audience who don't follow the news, for instance, and they played Spider-Man on PS4, well, now they see Spider-Man in Marvel's Avengers, I don't know if they're going to think like, oh, these games are all connected now, and there's all this, is it the same version? Is it a different version? I'm very confused. I didn't think that they were going to, like, even make that an option for anyone. I thought they would just say, okay, cool, Spider-Man belongs to Sony. Well, not belongs, but is being used by Sony currently until they're done with it. So we won't put him in the Marvel's Avengers game because maybe that's just too much use of the character. Because now we're going to have two versions of Spider-Man on video game consoles, which to me sounds a bit confusing. So I didn't expect them to use Spider-Man as a character that to add on, and especially the exclusivity deal. I mean, I understand that Sony have the Spider-Man game, but like we said, they don't own Spider-Man. So what right do they actually have to keep him on their console only?
A lot of money. It's just down to money. That's the thing. Sony's like with the discussion I think last week about Sony is sticking to its guns on generations matter, while Microsoft's saying they don't. So to amp up Sony's reason as to why you should care that PS5 is out, it's not just their exclusives, it's the fact that they are going to make sure that as much stuff as possible is better on PlayStation.
Yeah.
To give you a reason. This is one of those, because I've seen another article speaking about the words PlayStation Advantage is going to be words you're going to be hearing a lot, because there's rumors that Sony's been spending an outrageous amount of money approaching as many developers and publishers as possible for exclusivity deals, either for games completely, like Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop.
Yeah.
Both are timed exclusives, I'm going to say. I might be wrong, but they're exclusive for at least their launch on PS5. And apparently they've been doing that with lots of other studios as well. And this Avengers stuff is just another thing that they've done.
Yeah.
They're trying to make PlayStation be the ultimate place by making sure that anything they can get their hands on is with them first. It's not overall consumer friendly, but it's definitely incentivizing PlayStation a lot.
Yeah, and it's definitely just for the money, I'd say.
This is definitely money based. They're paying these people for this stuff.
Yeah. So I'm not particularly happy for the poor Xbox users who like
and PC.
And PC, people who only have an Xbox and love Spider-Man, but then again, It is tough because I mean, the Spider-Man game is already exclusive to PlayStation. So if you wanted to play it, you have to play it on PlayStation. And now people make an argument that if they want to play Spider-Man in another game, they also have to play it on PlayStation. So I kind of get both sides. I feel for the people who don't have a PlayStation and who love Spider-Man, but like you said, that is Sony just giving them more incentive to go get a PlayStation. You know, don't carry on with Xbox unless there's a reason to stay on Xbox. But
I mean, that's the thing, though. We saw with lots of people online saying things like, lots of people hate this move, but lots of people that own a PC, an Xbox, and a PS4 said, well, I was going to get this on Xbox or PC, but now because Spider-Man's there, I'm going to buy it on the PS4.
Yeah.
And Sony gets a percentage of the sales that are on its console.
Yeah.
For the licensing for the PlayStation.
Do you think that there'll
so
be any...
it makes sense they want to encourage more sales.
Do you think there'll be any Xbox exclusive characters?
I don't know. I mean, since Square Enix is open to doing it, evidently Microsoft could approach, but it's up to them whether or not they do it, I guess.
Yeah,
but if they do, I mean, I don't know who's big enough to rival the get of Spider-Man.
Exactly. I imagine Phil Spencer, though, if they were going to, the next day after the announcement, would have called up Crystal Dynamics and just been like, look, can we chat? You know, let's make a meeting.
I mean, it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
They have to deal with Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics for Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are also pointing out that exclusivity deal and saying how lots more people were outraged over that than they are over this. But I think that's partly because, one, that was an established game that was a sequel to a game that had come to everything. And now suddenly its sequel was being locked. While so people don't actually, there's no investment to say, hey, this is completely unjustified because we've never had a game like this before.
Mm.
And I mean, Spider-Man was already a PS4 exclusive game.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of precedent for it, which I think has lowered the outrage compared to Tomb Raider.
Yeah. And then the next question is, how do you think Spider-Man will play? Like, how do you think they'll adapt him for this style of game? Because it's obviously not an open world. It's not a Manhattan for him to swing around. It might be environments that don't necessarily have skyscrapers.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of his movements are going to work very differently. Everyone else seems to have, like, you know, standard jump and stuff.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man, or flight, but Spider-Man specifically has a lot of, like, shoot webs, pull him towards things. Like, a lot of his movement is based around that and swinging. I pray that he attaches to things. If they go the skybox route and just say, no, screw it, he just attaches to the ceiling, to the sky, and just swings around, that's much more arcadey, and I think that'll be really weird, considering everything else being much more kind of almost MCU / you know, realistic as far as superheroes can be.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be probably similar to, like, he'll probably be the most similar to maybe Black Widow. I don't know how she plays, but considering she's one of the main, like, you know, just hand-to-hand combatants with gadgets, so I'd say he's probably going to be similar to that and Captain America, but maybe a bit more acrobatic and with, you know, obviously whatever throwables or distance strikes they have for them replaced with web shooter stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen any of the gameplay from the beta, but from what I've seen, Black Widow has like a grapple hook, and she has like a swinging ability. So I imagine it's all kind of built in. And like, I think, what's it, Kamala Khan? She has like her hand will stretch and grab to something. Like, those are their versions of movement, the way that it's like Iron Man will fly, Hulk will jump, Thor will fly. So they built those in already. So I imagine they could just, you know, copy paste it onto Spider-Man in the sense of he could attach to certain objects, but I imagine that it's not going to be as like, I don't think the movement will be as free as it is in Marvel's Spider-Man.
Probably not.
I think it'll be more about using your webs to get from A to B, but then when you're in a fight, then maybe it'll be like the triangle move in Marvel Spider-Man, where it's like you can web to an enemy across the way and pull yourself to them to move around, you know, very quickly. I don't think it'll be about like getting to a high place, swinging down, beating some guys up, going back up. Which I'm actually not that excited for after playing Marvel Spider-Man. I don't think it'll be as fun. I don't know how well he's going to adapt to this style of game.
I don't know. It's a thing. Like, but I guess once again with like Marvel's Ultimate Alliance and stuff, Spider-Man has existed in other games plenty of times before.
Yeah.
It's just a thing of this is their gameplay. This is as if he fits with their gameplay, then he fits with their gameplay, and you can't really expect him to fit the style of gameplay from another game he was in.
Yeah. So it'll be very interesting. But we got a little bonus question. I just wanted to put out, James, if you could add one hero if you could pick a hero to join the roster of characters in Marvel's Avengers, but it has to be a hero that hasn't been announced as of yet, who would you pick?
If only this game was rated 18. I'd pick Deadpool. If this game was rated 18, if it was rated 18, I'd pick Deadpool. Without it being rated 18, I'd probably say Moon Knight or Squirrel Girl, just because they'd be so different compared to everyone else.
I don't know Moon Knight.
Moon Knight is basically Batman of the Marvel universe, except he was brought back to life by the moon god Khonshu from Egyptian mythology, and he wears bright white and attacks people at night because he wants them to know he's coming.
Okay.
So unlike Batman, his sense of fear is that they can see him and they know the unstoppable Moon Knight is coming for them. And like, he's just pretty interesting. He's kind of also deranged.
I was about to tune you, but I'm wrong. The picture when you Googled him, there's one of like him with Batman, and I was like, wait, is he DC? And then I was about to be like, James, what are you going on about? And then I see it's about Marvel.
But yeah, by his combat style and his look, he's more similar to Batman in his fighting and stuff, while Iron Man's more similar to Batman in wealth.
Yeah. Well,
I find it fun.
For me, I've got two answers in the sense of one being a bit silly and then one kind of being like just a bit more normal. A pretty normal answer. I'd say I want to see Wolverine. I know he's not an Avenger, but I think his gameplay would be really cool in this sort of system.
I think almost all Marvel characters at this point have probably been an Avenger at some point.
Yeah. But I think he'd be really interesting, like what you could upgrade. You could change, maybe you could change what his claws look like. I don't know, or like, I mean, and there's obviously so many skins for Wolverine in that, so it could be cool. But the other answer I have, which I guess is not that silly, but I'd say Quicksilver, just because I want them to. I wanted to break the game. I want to see how would you create a character that can go faster than everyone else when everyone's playing in real time. You know, you can't slow everyone else down. So you're gonna allow the player to actually like have to be, quick reaction time with running quick through this world while everyone else is fighting, or how would they get that? So,
yeah, I think a speedster is someone that could only really be done if this was a linear single player game, or not linear, but a single player game. I think as soon as it was introduced, as soon as it's live service like it is, I don't think you can do something that's that broken.
Unless, do you remember in Ben 10 on PS2, Ben 10 Protect of Earth, when you played as Accelerate, how you could hold circle and then you would move the little icon that would pop up around, and wherever you moved it, or like the path you moved it along, he would then run along that path. I mean, they could do something like that.
They could, and I mean, it would be interesting, but I think it might be like one of the biggest nightmares to get like the service to work with that.
Yeah, so I'll send that one to Crystal Dynamics, just to break your guys' game a little bit more. I think that could be quite cool.
As though you're insinuating the game's broken right now.
What? I'm sure nothing's broken.
A little bit more.
Don't you know that games like Marvel's Avengers are always perfect on day one? Just like Destiny 1.
Anthem was the poster child for perfection.
Exactly.
That's not going to be good.
But yeah, we're going to get moving on now to the next topic. And that's what we've been playing. And James, I'm guessing you've still been playing Ghosts. Yeah,
still playing Ghost, and now considering getting Greedfall and Resi 7.
Nice.
I need to go finish that game soon.
How far are you in Ghost now? Without spoilers. Because we've both been through a lot of spoilers recently.
I've opened up the 3rd region.
Okay.
And I've got my allies back into the 3rd region.
Oh, really? Okay, you're further than me then.
Yeah, I've done. That's not really a spoiler to say that I've gotten.
No, that's fine.
Region. So that's where I am essentially.
Yeah.
And I completed Lady Masako's Tale. Nice ending.
Okay, I still have one more left for hers. But I imagine I'll get it soon. Are you and how are you enjoying Ghost so far, or still?
I love that. I don't know if it's realistic weather-wise to say that it goes from all of this like nice, lovely nature to suddenly frozen, and I'm just like, I don't know how realistic that is on this sized island. But at the same time, I'm like, it's a really cool, different biome. Yeah. But at the same time, it becomes much more boring, much faster because there's not many variations of ice that you can do.
Yeah, you can't have like red ice and purple and yellow ice.
Compared to the forests down below, there's not many variations of frozen wasteland. So, but it is a cool change of pace for the end, and it does feel like, there's very little left to do in terms of your allies' missions and stuff, and it does. Looking at the titles of the main missions, it feels like it's going to be, if you did it straight, it would be a much shorter series of main missions than the rest. So this is definitely like final third, if not less, heading straight to the climax.
Yeah. Nice. I'm also playing Ghost, also in Act 3 early on. I mean, geez, it was a bit of a roller coaster going from Act 2 to 3, I must say.
Yeah.
But
that wasn't a great set piece.
Yeah, it was actually really cool, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm excited to play more. I feel like I'm ready for the game to kind of come to an end. I can kind of see where it's going, but I still love exploring the world. And like I agree, the snow area is not my favorite, but I like the variation. Again, like I said last week, I didn't know what they would do in the next section. I kind of guessed snow, but I was like, each section's meant to be different from the other, and they definitely differentiated this one from the last one. So I really appreciate that. And other than that, I've obviously been checking on my Animal Crossing. I'll have you know that the turnip prices aren't doing well, in case you're wondering. So not much
I was
to report.
To see if the turnip prices had gone up. This is like how I guess some investors watch the stock market with bated breath. I think they check more than once a week to see how the turnip prices are doing.
I always wonder if they've maybe assigned the price of turnips to reflect a real world commodity. Maybe it's like, or it changes every week,
You think Nintendo is modeling the turnip prices after like the price of crude oil?
Yeah, or like Bitcoin or something,
People get sanctioned by Saudi Arabia and their crude oil suddenly just spikes or drops. You think Nintendo's like, oh, quick, change the turnips.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be... actually, that'll be hilarious if someone tied all their stats to real-life stock prices. And suddenly something they thought would be certain crashes, and the most rare item in their game becomes worthless.
The thing is, there's like an online thing you can use where you enter your turnip prices over a period of time, and it kind of calculates where it's going to go next or when to expect like a peak. I haven't used it, but the fact that you can use that means that there has to be some kind of thing behind it. It's not just
there's definitely an algorithm behind formula. It.
It's not just like one random function like a polynomial being like, oh, it's just gonna.
I can't believe someone made that.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty.
Actually, to be fair, I can believe someone made that. We've got Rule 34 of the internet. So the fact that someone made a stock market predictor for the turnip prices in Animal Crossing is probably the least ridiculous thing.
I genuinely think it's based on something. Not actually. I'm saying this as a joke, but it'd be so cool.
Nintendo's share prices.
Imagine. No, but they fluctuate then, eh? I mean, I've gone days where it was like 99 bells and it's gone up to 555 and then down to 60, But I guess Nintendo hasn't had many exclusives this year, so maybe that's realistic.
I wouldn't know, actually. I don't look at gaming stock markets that much.
No, me neither. I look at turnip stock markets. Those are the only ones that matter, James. How else am I going to get my money? I got to pay Tom Nook,
Oh, yes, nothing like paying the crooked mafia Don for forcing a loan on you.
I realized I think I actually did say yes. I think when you upgrade your house, he's like, hey, do you want to upgrade your house again? Take out another loan? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I just want the next upgrade now. There's no point in waiting, actually.
Yeah, let's face it, in Animal Crossing, if you're not in debt, your life has no meaning.
Exactly. Well, then there's no reason to turn on the game. That's literally the gameplay loop, is pay off your debt and make your island look prettier while you do it.
Really sad that sounds like real life.
I know, but it's so much fun. And you can farm flowers.
Go say that when you get your own first house loan.
True.
I can't wait to go to work off this loan. It's like real gameplay. I'm living Animal Crossing.
It's like Persona 5. It's like, I wish Persona 5 was like real life. I wish every day I could only choose one thing to do.
Yeah, I wish I could start school as a normal Japanese kid and then go and kill demons.
Well, I wish I was just braver for eating a giant burger, you know?
Oh, yes, get my guts up.
Oh.
To be fair, that would increase your guts in two ways. Bravery, and you'd get fat.
But yeah, so that's what we've been playing this week. Nothing new, really. But I feel like there's maybe 1 week, probably a week left for each of us in Ghost until we've completed the main story, I would assume.
I'm still planning to 100% that game.
Yeah, me too. I'm planning on going through with the platinum.
Yeah, me too. Which means I need to go and get all of the Inari shrines, the Shinto shrines, the pillars.
Yeah, same.
Hot springs.
Just a side note, did you see the trailer for the Grounded update for Last of Us Part 2?
I did. It's really interesting. I also like that there's just like what is it again? The permadeath, where it just says you survived 59 minutes, and it's like it feels like it's partly rewarding you and shaming you at the same time.
I don't think I'll do permadeath. I don't think I'll make it far.
Oh no, depending on whether or not you can modify it. If I did a permadeath run but on easy mode, it might be fun to just do it and see if you could.
Yeah,
but the intensity of doing that on like hard or survivor or whatever the difficulties were.
Yeah, but the modifiers look really cool. Like I'm keen to mess around them, and I want to do a second playthrough of The Last of Us Part 2 eventually, obviously, and work towards the platinum.
Yeah.
But my other problem with the platinum is like you did after you did your first playthrough, you went back and replayed certain chapters just to get the collectibles.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to do that. But if I can mix up gameplay modifiers and put a cool filter over it, then I'm more than happy to go spend like a few hours doing that.
Yeah, my only reason for doing it that way was just because I wanted to be able to run through the story in my second playthrough without touching collectibles at all.
Yeah.
Simply because I didn't like the pacing the first time and felt collectibles made that even worse.
Yeah, I want to do that as well.
By ignoring them, it made it easier. So that was like my main reason. So I wanted the trophy, and I didn't want to play it 3 times. So it was just level by level.
But they bring in more trophies, so you're gonna have to get back in there.
Nah, screw it, I got the platinum.
No, that doesn't matter.
No, it does matter. This is probably going to be like the same with Last of Us Remastered, where there's Last of Us, Left Behind. No, Factions was included, so it was Left Behind, and I don't know if there's a third one. There might have been I think there was a Grounded trophy one. There was a Grounded trophy list, I think.
I think it was just New Game Plus, wasn't it? Didn't you? You had to play the game on Grounded to get the Platinum trophy for the original trophy list, don't you?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Maybe it was. I think there may have been a New Game... There may have been... Yeah, you may have been right. May have been a New Game Plus one, but it was just difficulties. So if you did Grounded Plus, you'd just get them all.
Yeah.
But I don't think those came with Platinums. The highest they went was Gold. There was never a Platinum for those sub ones.
Yeah, only the original game had
so I don't need to do it to get the Platinum. I'm already secured.
Okay. We're going to move on to the next section, and this one's going to be a lot of fun. So basically, the topic I wanted to do in the show was what are our top 5 favorite developers each, and I thought that, that's cool, but that doesn't bring much excitement to the episode. So instead, what I've done is I've created a bit of a game, a bit of a scenario. So James and I have each happened to start our own video game console. We have our own company. I don't know what our consoles' names are. I mean, we can give them names if you want, James. Should we?
I have not put thought into that.
No, me neither.
I can try.
I mean, I'll just use Mary as a way. I'd say the Mary Boy. That'll be my console. Do you want to think of yours while I read what the game is? So I'll let you guys know. So basically, we each have our own console, and for some reason, we can pick any 5 studios that create video games as first-party studios. We don't have to worry about cost. We don't have to worry about who they're currently owned by. And we're going to just be going through, and the rules are that we can't have the same studio. So once a studio is picked, it's eliminated from the options left. When you pick a studio, you got to say what kind of games you'd have them create for you and why you picked them. And I guess there's actually not much rules other than that. So I guess we can get straight into it, but I think we're going to have to flip a coin to see who goes first, because I feel like I know what your first pick is, and I feel like
I know what your first
I
pick
want
is.
them. No, but okay. Anyway, let's before we get into this, do you have a name for your gaming console?
I'm going to go with using Latin and use the word ludus, which means game.
Okay, so we got the Ludus and we got the Merry Boy. So I'm just gonna ask Siri to flip a coin. Hey Siri, can you flip a coin?
I'm not sure I
Oh
understand.
my word. Flip a coin.
It's heads.
Oh wait, I didn't ask you to. Heads or tails. Heads or tails.
I hate these decisions. Let's just go with heads.
Flip a coin.
It's tails.
Oh, so I get to go first. All right. So here's my predicament, James. So I know who your first studio you'll pick is, and I want them. My issue is, will you snake me and take my studio I want if I don't take them first?
No, there's a high chance of that.
So that makes it tough.
I am vindictive that way.
So how I thought about this is, first of all, up straight, I've got two studios that I just love, and I want them. After that, I'm realistic, and I'm like, I need studios that can give me a variety of genres that can satisfy all the Merry Boy fanboys, you know, so all my users are happy.
Of course, all the fanboys.
Yeah. So I'm actually not gonna snake you. I'm actually gonna go with my selfish decision. And if I had my own console and it was the only console I could play on, I need my studio there. I need my favorite studio that is currently working in video games, and that is Insomniac Games, because they made Spider-Man in Sunset Overdrive. I played also on my laptop, and that is so much fun.
Wait, no, that's like
No, they made Ratchet and Clank.
Why do I keep confusing Sucker Punch and Insomniac?
So my first option. So I'm just gonna write up a list so that we have it. Let me grab a little notepad.
Get yourself some good editing, and you can put them up on top of our pictures next to our faces.
I could just put the notepad over the screen and we'll record it, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to say,
or you could just edit it in next to our faces. So yours over there and mine over there.
So I'm going to take Insomniac. The reason I'm taking Insomniac is I love every Insomniac game I've played. I love the movement they put in their games. I think it's so cool. I think it's so fluid, and it's like they make movement a gameplay mechanic, you know, that is always incorporating all parts of the gameplay. I love the stories they tell. Even Sunset Overdrive had quite a funny, entertaining story, but obviously Spider-Man had such a cool story, and it's my favorite game of all time. And for the games I'd have them make would be some third-person action-adventure games. Just, you know, keep at what they're good at. Keep doing what they're doing over at Sony currently. So
platformer, considering Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, so occasionally platformers as well, but I'd have them focus on third-person action-adventure games. But yeah, that's my first pick.
Yeah, I get my first pick as well.
Okay, let me just type it in here. So so yours is
you could say it. You could say it for me. You know who I'm going to pick first.
Konami.
That's a publisher.
Then who made? What? Oh, I'm confused. Who made Metal Gear Solid then?
Well, I don't know if they were called it then, but it was Kojima Productions. Konami's the publisher. I don't know if that's the thing. A lot of studios like Capcom, for instance, I don't know the names of any internal studios in Capcom. I just know of Capcom. While with other places, we know of internal studio names.
Well, it says here developers are Kojima Productions and Konami Digital Entertainment. And that's because of developers. So I think they're still a developer. So I'll defend myself.
But as for whether or not their things are called the same. But I think you know who my first pick is.
Anyway, I know. You can say it.
CD Projekt Red.
What?
Of course. I mean, while you've got Spider-Man as your favorite game of all time, my favorite game of all time is still sitting as The Witcher 3 and Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone expansions. Like, literally, that game changed the way I viewed RPGs completely, because before that, my main RPGs had been... Actually, it hadn't been many. I hadn't gotten that far into RPGs yet. I was mainly still playing open world games. So that was like my big intro to open world RPGs. And it was still probably the best one I've ever played. The only one I played before that was Skyrim. And this just knocked that out of the park.
So you'd obviously make them make rhythm-based games, huh?
Oh, yeah, no, of course. I definitely want them to make mobile games.
Yeah.
I think their time's going to be best spent putting lots of microtransactions into everything. And I think story is something they should just focus less on. They just need to realize that they're not good at it.
And just put all the games on friv.com.
obviously, anything on my console, on my Ludus, made by CD Projekt Red will be gigantic single-player open-world RPGs. And then any side projects that they have, passion about, like Gwent and the Thronebreaker Gwent game, like, if they've got passion for it, then I wouldn't have a problem if I had the money to fund it.
Nice.
Because so far, I mean, they've just gone and gotten better and better with each game. They started with Witcher 1. It was meh from what I know from like reviews of it. Witcher 2 was so much better, and then Witcher 3 has become the gold standard of RPGs. Like, in 3 games, they managed to make the gold standard. Like, that is amazing. So, yeah, CD Projekt.
Don't forget their 4th game, only available on Netflix.
You're confusing me.
No, I'm just kidding about the Witcher TV show.
For a second I was very confused, because I'm like, isn't there also a Cyberpunk anime coming to Netflix?
Yeah, but that's only next year, I think. Or 2022, actually.
Yeah, it is a while away, but for a second I was confused. I'm like, that's definitely like involved with the game. Well, I didn't think of The Witcher because it's completely separate.
Well, I'm gonna go into my next pick, and I'm glad that you took your pick, or that you at least had a first option that I knew you would take, because that allows me to definitely get my second option. I don't know if you know, or do you have any idea what my second option is going to be?
I'm guessing Naughty Dog.
This is my second favorite developer. It is a studio that is one of the new-ish studios. It's still been around for a couple of years, and in my opinion, they've never made a bad game. I'm going to take Respawn Entertainment.
Fair enough.
They'll make my first-person shooters and occasional third-person games like they did with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Sorry about the flash.
Nah, it's chill. So yeah, that'll be my second pick. I love Titanfall. I love Apex. I definitely have them making some kind of futuristic shooter with wall running and power sliding and that kind of stuff. So the Merry Boy so far has 2 really good devs under their belt.
You stole my 4th pick.
So yeah, I'd definitely be taking Respawn as my second option. So,
okay.
So what's your second option?
My second option, you actually didn't take them. My second option is another one that I just love, because I've got Western RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Now I need something else. I need JRPGs. I'm taking Atlus, the creators of Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, and whatever the hell type of game you'd class Catherine as. They've got like the gold. They've also, like, Persona 5 is one of the biggest like gold standards of turn-based JRPGs. And yeah, I just can't imagine them like slipping up right now if they keep putting the same type of like work and effort into Shin Megami Tensei 5 that's coming to Switch, and whenever the hell the next Persona comes. Because I mean, Royal came out, and also just like Persona 5, I think Persona 5 got like 9s and 10s. Royal got like mostly 10s, I think.
Yeah.
Like, literally, they've been making just great games, like highly critically acclaimed, and I just would take anything they make. And so I'd have them definitely building proper turn-based JRPGs, because you don't get too many turn-based games anymore, and I want to make sure that those are provided.
Well, I would be in your console if I want to play games that are less than 100 hours.
You know what? That's fair.
Okay, I'm going to have to go with my third pick. So my third pick would have been CD Projekt Red, but you stole it from me, which is very awful of you. I could go weird directions with this. I'm actually gonna go in a direction that is not necessarily a studio that's my favorite, but it's a studio that I think will be important, and I'm gonna take From Software. Reason being, I don't necessarily want a JRPG studio, but I mean, I wouldn't call it a JRPG, but you know, the Souls-like genre, I feel like is a genre strong enough on its own to bring a whole group of people over to the Merry Boy, you know, over to the light side, as they like to say.
You'd have a lot of people with the Soulsborne game. Yeah,
exactly. And I would have them making 2D platformers of the likes of Mario. They'll definitely be carrying on with the Soulsborne, Souls-like games.
I am curious to see, because I think, didn't they say like the guy that the Miyazaki, the head creative director for From Software, is getting really over making these types of games? Or was it just making the Dark Souls world in particular?
I don't know.
I feel like I
haven't
remember
seen
hearing
it.
something. I'll be interested to see what they make after Sekiro, because this is going to be like, since Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, they've made the same type of game,
Yeah.
and only 2 of them have majorly deviated in the combat styles.
Are they not making that game with George R. R. Martin?
Oh yes, they are. Forgot about that.
Elden Ring?
Then, yeah, Elden Ring. But that could be open world for all we know, so at least I don't know. I don't remember anything about that game being announced officially. But yeah, that's true. Sorry, I forgot about that. So maybe he's not as bored because this time he doesn't have to make up all the cryptic lore. He's left it to someone who should be writing a bloody book.
Or should have at least written the last season.
No, I'd like him to finish the books before he dies. Okay, I'm also going to go a bit more out there, and I'm going to go with someone who can also, like you went, give you a shooter, can give me a shooter. I'm going to go with id Software for Doom.
That's a good one.
The last 2 the 2 new Dooms have gotten nothing but like big praise. Id also, it wasn't a big game, and it commercially I think flopped, but the combat system was at least good because they stole it from Doom. Was id making the combat system for Rage 2, but like literally id's done lots of great things with arcadey combat and with first-person shooters becoming like fun in a single-player sense while also having an enjoyable multiplayer for people who want it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, yeah, id is definitely a good option in terms of like getting a bit of the shooter sadist crowd to come there, so that you can just have, while everyone in your game is busy, in your studio is busy playing family-friendly stuff or getting completely destroyed by hard things, people on my console will be having fun ripping demons in half with their bare hands.
They can't make Doom.
They can make the Doom-like game.
Okay, true.
Doesn't have to be Doom, but they can play the average steroided guy running around after having too many injections that just suddenly starts ripping people apart because they look like aliens. Never said I'm going to be good at coming up with the concepts. I just said I'd buy them.
Doom vs. Master Chief.
I wonder who actually... Doom Marine would win.
Yeah, no, I think Doom would win.
Considering I haven't played it, but I watched a review where they mentioned that a part of the Doom Eternal game is another portal to hell gets opened to Mars. Doom Marine, without saying a single thing, gets into a like skyscraper-sized cannon, jumps in it, presses the button. Everyone's like, "What the hell is he doing? There's no way he'll live." Shoots himself at light speed from Earth to Mars, crashes through a building, just gets up and walks off and just kills demons immediately.
I love it.
I'm just like, are you kidding? What the hell is that? But it's great. So I think he beat Master Chief instantly.
Let me just do a little quick Google search here, because I want to be correct on my next pick. Okay, cool. All right, so my next pick is another one that's not necessarily one of my favorite studios, but it's a studio that I know will bring people to the console and will give them what they want in a genre that won't be provided by the previous 3 ones I have. And that is Epic Games. I know they're huge, but I'm going to take Epic Games and ask them to make me something of the caliber of Fortnite and anything else they've produced. And also Epic Games back in the day made Gears of War, if I'm correct. So they have some experience. Yeah, they have some experience in some third-person cover shooters, which I think could also be really cool. And I feel like they could work in, it's such a... I don't know, I feel like if they weren't doing Fortnite, they would have a lot of other good ideas, and it would bring everybody to the Merry Boy and bring all the Merry Boy users together, just like a happy family.
I've got one that's gonna I think he'll be sad for not picking.
Wait. Let me see if they... Okay, yeah.
Now, this one definitely will... It won't bring everyone, but whenever a new game is going to get made, everyone will pay attention. My next pick would be Kojima Productions. Because you are selling anything based on that man's name, you will have an audience.
True.
Hideo Kojima will make anything as well. One thing none of your game series have and none of my studios have either is proper horror. Now, Hideo Kojima hasn't done it yet in a full game, but PT was enough for everyone to think he could be a master at making a horror game. And that's something neither of us has yet. And as well, he's got all the expertise in open world stealth games. He's got the expertise at Strand games.
Strand genre.
He's undeniably the master of them, being he's the only one that made one.
Exactly.
So, and also, he's got the biggest amount of celebrity friends who I can meet through him. And that's all that really matters, isn't it?
No.
So I want Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions with that weird-ass spaceman skeleton symbol thing. I don't know what that logo is still.
So before we pick our last studios, just to summarize, so I've got Insomniac Games, Respawn Entertainment, From Software, and Epic Games. And James has CD Projekt Red, Atlas, id Software, and Kojima Productions. So we into our last pick now. And I actually don't know who I want to go for. I have a studio next to my list, but I don't know. This is tough. So I don't want to say their names out loud. The thing is, the next studio I'm going to pick is probably going to be one that's going to make me a third-person action-adventure game. My issue is who, and
yeah, you're like, which one? There's a few as well. I've got a few.
Couple, and I'm actually going to go a bit of a different direction. I was thinking of one of the many Sony first-party studios that make incredible action-adventure narrative third-person games. But I'm actually going to go with Rocksteady because what they've done with Batman, what they look like they're going to do with Suicide Squad, I imagine is going to be cool. And I'd love to give them all sorts of different kinds of characters that not necessarily are like Batman, but have certain characteristics that would fit well with the kind of games that the Arkham games were. And I think it could be so interesting. And I love all the Rocksteady games that I've played. And I know I could go for Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica, but I feel like those studios are so attached to the IPs they create, whereas Rocksteady, I feel like, could at least branch out and with new IPs, they could... I don't know, I think it'd be very exciting to see what they could do with the new IPs.
I mean, you kind of say new IPs, but they're almost limited to the DC universe.
That's fine.
But then
new IPs in video games.
Make countless different games in that. You could make stealth games, you could make power fantasies, you could make... Actually, every single superhero game is a power fantasy, I guess. Just super stealth power fantasy or whichever. Oof, you've left me now with like such a difficult decision. Do you want to know who's left on my list that I'm trying to choose between?
I could probably tell you who's on your list. I reckon you got Naughty Dog, you got Sony Santa Monica, and you got Rockstar. Yes,
I've also got Techland, Sucker Punch, 343, the Resi 2 studio from Capcom, because that Resi engine is great. Like, the character models and everything look amazing in that game. Arcane, Obsidian.
Sports.
No. Never. I will leave the sports games. I don't care. I know they could make you so much money on, like, Ultimate Team and all of that horrid monetization, but no. And I don't know which team it is. I don't know which team it is, but the Legend of Zelda team at Nintendo.
Ooh.
I don't know which team they are that made Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it's Nintendo. I think it's just Nintendo, which actually means they are up for grabs.
But no, they make... I'm sure they've got different teams working on different things.
Yeah, different teams, but the rule is just develop, and it says here it's developed by Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development. Which is probably just...
But that's why I say it's not like fair. That's the same as Ubisoft. Ubisoft names all their studios Ubisoft and then an area.
True.
Ubisoft Montreal, Ubisoft this. They've got to be different teams.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, it doesn't make sense to say that you take the whole publisher, because that's more known as the publisher and like the dev studios are within it.
Yeah.
But they're all separate ones still.
So I'm just gonna say Nintendo Breath of the Wild team.
Yeah, that was my one option, but I'm still trying to think who to pick. So I'm like,
oh, is that your option? I thought that was your pick.
No, that's my option. That was my last option. I think overall, I'd have to go with Rockstar just because they've got a caliber that they're known for, and like at the same time, you could allow that studio to make whatever they wanted. I could let them make a walking simulator and people would come to it because it's got the Rockstar North Star on it.
You could open up your video game conference with it, but then tell people it's just the last game they made again.
Yeah, I could just keep selling them GTA on.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Can't think of a ripoff to make. Grand Theft Boat. Grand Theft Boat Online. There we go. GTB. Nice. Literally even sounds like the secondary version.
Nice. That's a pretty good list. So just to summarize, if you come over to the Merry Boy, the number one console on the market coming in 2026, you can find
consoles will be as successful as the Ouya. Don't sell us far. The Ouya is what we are beyond the level of.
I mean, they bringing out a like Game Boy like console with a crank. I mean, it's a gameplay feature, a mechanic, whatever you want to call it.
I don't think I heard of that. I don't remember where. I remember hearing of that. Don't remember when.
Anyway, so my 5 developers are Insomniac Games, Respawn Entertainment, From Software, Epic Games, and Rocksteady. And James's 5 developers are CD Projekt Red, Atlas, id Software, Kojima Productions, and Rockstar. I think those are 5 pretty good lineups. I think that you have a lot of.
Yep.
Actually, I mean, how many? No, only 2 of those are Japanese studios. Is Kojima Productions Japanese based?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. I think most of his staff is. I won't say most of his staff is. I'm just going to assume that a fair amount of his staff is Japanese. I'm pretty sure the studio is based in Japan.
Okay. Nice, but I think we got a good competition that's going to come between us when 2026 comes. We're interested to see who.
It'd be fun.
Who takes the cake? Yeah.
It'd be fun if we continue this by looking at the success in reviews of the games that these studios make, like a fantasy football league.
We can.
We continue this by competing with games going forwards and the success they generate for each of the studios we've picked.
So how do we pick if some studios have more games than others? Do you get to pick like the 3 best games from that studio?
I think we'll discuss the rules after this because this might not be the best time to sit in silence and think the best way to make a fantasy football league out of chosen dev studios.
If we're going to do that game, though, I would have picked my studios a little differently because, for
possibly
instance,
that is also fair.
Naughty Dog's games scores are going to be much higher than Insomniac's.
I mean, possibly.
But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We'll talk about it off the show.
I was just thinking of it for a second. I was like, that might be funny.
Yeah, we could make some kind of fantasy league. That'll be pretty cool. But before we end the segment, maybe do you have any like honorable mentions you want to just shout out studios you were thinking about, or studios you'll maybe at least have a little bit of a relationship with for some exclusivity deals, which everybody loves?
Sony Santa Monica for Big Hairy Dad game and Big Hairy Dad game, the prequel, when Big Hairy Dad was Angry Man.
Yeah.
Angry Slasher Man.
Yeah.
No, I think it'd mainly be Sony Santa Monica and maybe Arcane, because Arcane's also got very good level design in their games.
I'd go with Sony Santa Monica as well. I'd definitely keep Cory Barlog on my phone contacts. I'd stay close to Bungie. There was another one on my list just because they're another first-person shooter studio, and I think I've only got one studio that makes first-person shooter games or has made first-person shooter games already. So I'd stay in contact with them, and then my last one is Pixel Opus, who made Concrete Genie. I just love Concrete Genie, and I think it'd be cool to have like a kind of smaller studio who can make the more indie kind of games. It doesn't necessarily have to be indie, but just the smaller games that people still love. I think that would be cool to have. But yeah,
that's fair. Now that I look at it, there's just so many good like developers in terms of their caliber, not necessarily in terms of their work practices, but their caliber.
Well, remember, maybe we we can tell them, look, your game can come out when it's ready. Like, you don't even have to put a release date on. You just put it out when it's ready. We don't need to build a hype because we're not here about money. You know, the Merry Boy it's not even, you don't even have to buy it. It's free, you know? Just go to your local shop, shop that sells consoles, and you can just take it.
The local shop that sells consoles.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. People might be listening to this all over the world, and maybe they don't necessarily go to Incredible Connection or Music or Toys R Us.
I think your main ones worldwide will be GameStop and B Games. Just gonna put that out there.
Probably.
I think those are the main worldwide ones. Except, actually, I don't know what the UK and Europe are. Now that I think about it.
Me neither.
Game?
I'm not sure. Anyway, that actually wraps up the segment, and that wraps up the last topic of the show. And yeah, that's episode 3 of Talk Nerdy with me, guys. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and like wherever you listen, whether that's on your favorite podcast service or if it's over on YouTube. And please do tell your friends to check out the podcast. This is the 3rd episode, so make sure if you haven't seen episode 1 or 2 to go back and check those ones out as well. And remember that you can follow us on Instagram at Talk Nerdy with Me Podcast. You also on YouTube. And if you want to email us with a question, a topic for the show, or if you want to answer a question or let us know your 5 favorite game studios or what 5 you would pick if you had your own console, remember you can reach us at the email address talknerdywithme21@gmail.com. And you can reach out to us with anything and everything. I'm excited to hear from you guys, and that pretty much wraps up episode 3 of the Talk Nerdy with Me podcast. James, thanks again for joining me. Do you have anything you want to say before we go?
That was a lot of fun, and I look forward to whatever happens next week.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking a bit off the air about maybe a bit of a fantasy league with devs and that. I think that could be really cool. We'll have to make some kind of rules. Might be a bit tough, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, that wraps up episode 3 of the Talk Nerdy with Me podcast. Thank you for listening, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.
Bye.
Hey, that was cool. I liked your picks.
Yeah.
Not as good as mine.